Hello.
Good evening, students.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening. Please, please mute your mics. Let us first discuss the paper format. The maximum marks for the final paper is 70. There are totally 8 questions. Total questions 8, and you have to attempt 5. So it's like you have to do 5 out of 8, and then each question carries 14 marks. Each question has 14 marks and comprises of two bits, A bit and B bit. A bit and B bit, their marks would be divided up like 8, 6, or 6, 8, or 7, 7, even 9, 5. First 5 questions would be typically, okay, uh, from first 5 units, 5 questions from 5 units, and then remaining 3 questions will cover all 5 units. It's like these 5 questions, each one is from 1 unit. First question maybe from unit 1, second from unit 2, third unit 3, 4 unit 4, 5 unit 5. Then 5 units are covered in 5 questions. Remaining 3 questions uh, has A bit from unit 1, B bit from unit 2, C bit, then again another question, unit 3, unit 4, unit 5, like that. These 3 questions also covers from 5 units. All right, I hope that this one is clear to you. This is the pattern, and based on this pattern, you can prepare. The next topic from unit 4 is
Madam, attempt means out of 8 we can attempt only 3. So 3, sorry, 5, and 3 are choices.
yes,
Is it?
yeah, it is.
Okay, madam. Thanks.
Okay, like it will be like this. You 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. This one, each one will have A bit, B bit, and you can write any 5. Unit 4 comprises of two chapters, one device management, another IO devices. From device management, the first topic is disk structure. Here disk structure figure has been shown. You see that the hard disk consists of platters. These circular ones are known as platters. Each platter is divided up into um, circular fields known as tracks. Here you can see this one is a track. This is one track, and each track is divided up into sectors, multiple sectors. This is one individual sector. Like that, you have multiple sectors, and the track, all the tracks located on all the platters at one single position is known as a cylinder. You see this track, if it is a track number 1, so here you see track number 1, 1 and 1. Together they form a cylinder.
So in this case, cylinder C it is there, right? Did you note?
Sorry?
Here it is showing as a cylinder C, right?
Yeah. This one only. This is cylinder. How do you obtain cylinder? It's same track, same numbered track on all the platters.
Yes.
Okay, when you combine this together, you see you are getting one cylinder shape,
Yes.
and it is known as a cylinder. This is a cylinder.
Individual platter also in the cylinder? No.
No, no,
Only the platters. Combination of platters on
not platters, tracks.
track.
Tracks.
I mean to say for each platter, each track
Yeah.
within a different
Yeah.
platter.
Yeah,
That's why I want.
yeah. This is one platter, suppose, and you have another platter like this, and then these are divided into tracks, concentric circular shaped circles like this.
Yeah.
Okay, these are tracks, and then what happens is this this one and this one at one level. This is suppose track number 10 and track number 10, and like this one.
Mhm.
This is cylinder 1
Okay.
or 0, whatever number you are giving, and then this one and this one would be another cylinder number 2, and then further you can have like in this manner.
Okay.
These platters are fitted into a rotating rod known as a spindle. This can rotate, and then these are read write heads. Read write head. This is the arm. Actually, this is the arm. This is read write head. Read write head arm. This is read write head, and this is arm assembly. Arm assembly includes all these read write heads and their arms. So this particular component that holds the read write head is known as an arm. All right.
Okay.
So this is the disk structure. Here, what you would like to what you have to remember is that these sectors are the unit of storage. So what is done is these sectors are combined to form into blocks. We were discussing about movement of blocks from disk to memory and back and forth. So each sector is generally, the size of block is generally 512 bytes. Okay. And then that can be changed also to 1024 bytes as well, but typically it is 512 bytes. So 512 bytes, you can call it a block, and then you can transfer the data in the form of blocks, send and receive the data in the form of blocks. All right, this is a disk structure. And then the next topic is disk scheduling. Can anyone let me know what is CPU scheduling?
If we give a process, I mean, that is, uh, if we plan a program, okay, we'll schedule a timing that like roster or class wise. We'll give the instructions to the CPU to do a work, and it will be doing the work in the given schedule only.
Yeah, right. So what happens is there is a queue of processes. Okay, there is a queue of processes, and then it is the task of the scheduler to choose the next process to be given to a processor. Here you have a processor. Here there is a queue in which there are processes that are ready to be executed, and there is a scheduler that chooses the process from this list and gives it to the processor. This is processor scheduling. Similarly, we have disk scheduling. What is the need of disk scheduling? User read and write this disk. Suppose if you if processor is storing some information on the disk, or is accessing some information from the disk. Even in this scenario, what happens is a queue will be created, because at once only one request can be handled. If a request has come for a data located on cylinder 90, currently the system is trying to read the data located at cylinder 90. Another request arrive. When another request arrive, it is queued. It is added up in the queue, say 10 for cylinder number 10. Later another request arrives, say 112. Further another request arrives, 55. Like this, what happens is if the device is busy doing the task, whatever further new requests arrive, they are stored in the queue. And now the operating system has to choose. It has to choose which request to be serviced next. All right. if we are maintaining fairness, okay, in case of being too fair, we go for choosing the request that has come as per the order, as per the time. If this request arrive before all this, so this will be served next. If this one arrives after this and before all these, then this one will be served next. So this kind of scenario may be called as first come first serve. Whoever comes first will be served first. This is one kind of strategy which operating system can follow in order to provide service to the requests that arrive for the disk data, for the data that is stored on disk.
Yeah, FIFO. It is known as FIFO, right? FIFO scheduling.
Sorry.
It's also known as that is same thing, right? FIFO scheduling. First come, first serve.
Yeah. First come, first in, first out. FIFO is first in, first out.
Yes, yes.
FCFS is first come, first serve.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. Both are similar. Both are same. First come, first serve, and first in, first out. Whoever gets in first is the one to come out first. That is first in, first out, or first
Yeah.
come, first serve. Whoever gets in first will be serviced first.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the idea about what is disk scheduling. What is the need of having these strategies? Why not follow only this first come first serve? Why to go for other kinds of methods in order to efficiently utilize the hardware? All right, in order to improve the response time, in order to have a fast access for different reasons, it is essential to have a optimal method that reduces the response time and improves the access time. All right, so what is that? That is first reason for having different strategies is to increase the access time. Not increase, actually you have to decrease the access time. What is access time? It has got two components. First one is the seek time, and second one is the rotational latency, means latency. Um, what is the seek time? Seek time, it is the time for the disk arm to move the head to the cylinder containing the desired sector. Here, the time that the disk arm takes, this is the disk arm, the time that this arm takes uh, to move the heads, this heads, you have to move the head to the cylinder. Right now the head is located on this cylinder. Our desired data may be on this cylinder, means this one, or it can be here, it can be at a different place, different cylinders. The time it takes for the disk arm to move the head to the cylinder that contains the desired sector. Whatever data we are requesting, the data is stored in the sector. into which sector it is stored, that and that sector is within a cylinder. So moving this to that cylinder is the seek time. Rotation latency is the time for the disk to rotate to bring the desired sector under the read write head. If you are consider that the desired sector is this the desired sector is here. All right, this one is to be read. Then what happens? First this arm moves and brings the cylinder under it. Brings the cylinder means this read write head should be on this cylinder here, this cylinder. Okay, this black color square should be here. All right, that is the access time. Now rotational latency is this sector has to come now under this read write head. It is now located at the correct cylinder but not on the correct sector. For the desired sector to be under this read write head, this disk has to be moved. Okay, this spindle moves this disk, this platter I mean. So this comes under this, and then the requested data can be moved or transferred. All right, so in order to have a fast access time, that should be fast enough, that movement and then transferring, it should be fast enough so that processor does not have to wait for a longer period of time. In order to have fast access time, what we have to do, we have to have mechanisms that improves it. So we are going for disk scheduling techniques or methods. The first one is, let me list out all first: FCFS, SSTF, then we have scan, then C-scan, then look. These are the disk scheduling methods. All right. The first one, FCFS, first come first serve. This is the simplest among all the other methods, and it is quite fair, and it serves the request that has come first. Okay. However, the major drawback of this is that it takes more number of more time, more number of movements, head movements. Let us look at its operation, how it works. Consider this disk queue. In this queue, all the requests are queued or added up or entered So we have like this 98, '98, 183, 37, 122, 14, 124, 65, 67. Okay. These are the cylinder numbers of the requests. And the head is currently at cylinder number 53. Okay, current position of the head. Let us see what happens in FCFS. This is 0 to, suppose there are 200 cylinders numbered from 0 through 199. This is 50 and this one is 150. So somewhere here is the head. Okay, at 53 cylinder. After serving this 53 cylinder, what happens? The head has to move. Where it has to move? It has to move to the first request. You see, this is a queue, and this queue denote that whichever value is here, it is the first one that has been entered in this queue. So 98 is the first. So from 50, the movement of read-write head takes place to 98. Okay, so from 53 it moved to 98. This is done. From 98 it moves to 183.
Is 183 is the cylinder number or sector number, madam?
Here we are talking about cylinders.
Cylinder, sir.
Yes, because the read-write head is placed on the cylinder, not on the sector.
Okay.
I told you that when this read-write head moves,
Yeah.
this arm,
Okay.
you know,
Yes.
it comes on the desired
Cylinder.
means on the cylinder that contains the desired sector.
Okay.
This is the first step, right?
Yes.
Second step is for this movement. Then platter moves to take this sector under it. But first, read-write head should be placed at the correct cylinder.
Okay.
Okay, right. So 183 here. Now 183 is done. How many movements have taken place between 53 and 98? So 98 minus 53, you get some value, right? Can anyone tell me?
What 183 was
Hmm?
Can you repeat what you said? 183.
98 minus 53.
45.
So what is this number 45? This 45 is nothing but the number of cylinders that it has bypassed. It has moved. Not means
Not access.
yeah, without accessing, it has gone from 53 to 98.
Skipped. Yes.
Yeah, so 45 have been skipped, right? 45 cylinders. has been skipped. Then from 98 to 183. So 183 minus 98 is equal to, you get some number here. Now please tell me that number. And then from 183 to 37.
Yeah.
So 183 minus 37. It's actually 98 minus 183, but then you can do in this manner as well, right?
Yes.
And then from 37, it has to move to 122 because the next request is at 122. From 122, there is a swing to 14.
Hmm.
Okay, from 14 back to 124, then to 65, and 67. Okay, so you see here what is happening is there is the request being served by the disk as per the arrival of the request. So this is the most simplest method. So first one here 45. So 45 plus this is 183 minus 98. So this is 85 plus 85 plus then 183 to 37. 146 plus 140, 37 to 122. 85 plus 122 minus 14. 108 plus 14 to 124. 110 plus 124 to 65. 59 plus 65 to 67. 2. So this is equal to 640. Totally, there are 640 head movements. And you know, it takes time. It takes time for this all movements. And you know, disks uh, are not fast like main memory. Main memory is, you know, randomly accessed and it is quite fast. Whereas this one is not fast. So these many movements,
Mhm.
okay, it is not efficient to have these many movements because look at here, we are here at 122. If we just skip 14, we can service this 124, right? With just two head movements.
Yeah, yeah.
But because there is 14 in between,
It has to
what is
go back.
happening? Yeah, you all the way from 122, you're going to 14, and again you're coming to 124.
Yeah.
That's why, you know, a certain optimized methods have to be proposed, have to be developed in order to overcome this kind of problems. So first come first serve is fair, but not at all suitable. Look at here, the 640 head moments.
Yeah, entire queue movements, right? For cylinder 640.
Yeah, yes. Next one is, second one is SSTF. SSTF stands for shortest seek time first. Here the idea is to provide service to all the requests that are close to the current head position. If we are here, which one among all these queue elements is closer to this position? That you need to find out. When you find out the one which is closer to this current position, you go to that request, that cylinder. You don't follow this order. Here the order is being followed as per the time. SSTF is shortest seek time first algorithm. It selects the requests with the minimum seek time from the current head position.
So
All
it may
right.
be, I meant to say, ascending or descending also. For example, 98 is done. So it will go to 122 or it will go to 67.
67 minus, how much is 98 minus 67? And
One
how much is
cylinder.
122 minus 698?
Which is,
Whichever
whichever
is
the
less.
shortest. Okay.
Yeah, shortest. Wherever it is less, it has to go there. Unnecessary moving here and there, what is the use? See, if you have to go and buy some items, okay, what you are doing, you have a list, a shopping list,
Yes, yes.
and you have gone to the far away place to buy the first item,
Yeah.
okay, and suppose if second item you get here, again you have to come to second item here,
Yes,
and
yes.
these are locations, okay, you are traveling on your vehicle,
Hmm.
and you are following the shopping items in the order, in
Yeah.
sequential order. If you
Okay.
follow some optimization there, then
Mhm.
while going to buy first element, what you do? Okay, on the route, I get this one, I get this one, I get this one. Let me buy the 10th item, the 6th item, the 3rd item, and then go to buy first item.
Yes, yes.
Okay, it is all about that.
Okay.
Okay, so here what you have to do is, same elements we will take again. Our Q is equals to 98, 183, 37, 122, 14, 124, 65, 67. And where is the head? Head is at 53. Now let us start again. When you start again, so 0 to 199, and here we have 100, here we have 50, here we have 150. Okay, we are here at 53. So from 53, in this queue, which one is closer? So I think
37. 37.
37 means 37, 47.
37 means
I think 65.
13.
60, yeah, 13. 65 means
65 means,
65.
yeah, 12. 12. Yeah, it
12.
goes to 12 first.
Yeah, so 50 to 65. Go to 65. So here you are getting how many head moments? 12.
Then again, two movements. 67.
12. So again, two moments. So plus 2. Then after 67, it is, I think it should be 37, right?
Yes.
77, 87, 97.
Hmm.
So here 37 means 30. 37. From 67 you are going to 37. Here, perhaps. Here.
Right, good. 14, I think. 1 4. 14.
So this should be 30, no?
Yeah, yeah.
47, 67, 30. Then from 37 to
We'll go to 14. 1 4.
right, 14. So 14. So how many?
13, I think.
13. No.
37 minus
37 minus 14.
23, man.
Okay,
Yeah.
right. 23. Then from 14, it should be what we have completed. 65, 67, 14, 37. We have completed. Now we are at 14.
it goes to
From
98.
14, it goes to 98. So 98. No. So it should be 14 to 98. So I think this should be 84.
84.
Then 98 is done. Again from 98,
122.
we have to go to 122, right? So 122 will be here. 122, you are going from 98. So this is 24.
24.
Then after 122, it is 124, which is 122 plus only 183 left.
Yeah.
183
Minus
minus 124 is equals to 59. You are going to 183. So here, how many total head moments? 12, 30,
8.
plus 84, plus
236.
336.
236. 236.
236, right?
Yes, 236.
236. So we are getting total head moments of 236 cylinders. And you just look at the difference, 640 minus 236. How many head moments we are able to save? Do you understand the difference
Yeah.
between having FCFS and having no, it is I think 404.
Performance increasing, right?
The performance has increased.
Yes.
Look at here, how it is nicely going to the next request, which is essentially closer to it,
Yeah.
not going all the way so long and again swinging here and there.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so here SSTF provides a substantial improvement over FCFS, but then there is one problem here. What may be the problem? The problem is that we can move from 53 to 37 to 14, and then we can start serving 65, 67 like that. Look at here, we are going like this and then switching to back direction, right? Instead of that, this one would be more efficient. here from 50 to 37 to 14, then to 65. That is the problem here. Here it looks only at the minimum seek time.
Yeah.
That's why another one has been developed, which is known as scan scheduling. The third one, scan. This scan algorithm, uh, it is, it is about going in one direction, serving all the requests that come along in that direction, and then reversing the direction and again providing service along the path.
Okay.
Okay, so what happens, the disk arm starts at one end, moves toward the other end, servicing the request as
Entire
it
request.
reaches
Yeah.
the cylinder. Yeah, whatever is there in that route, it provides service to all that in that order, and then reaches the other end. Again it start providing service um, to whatever requests are there, along that direction, and then this process continues. Let us look at how we do this. Again, queue is same, 198, 183, 37, 122, 14, 124, 65, 67, and head is at 53. This is 0, 199, 100, 50, 150. Now, here head is at 53. It is at 53. Consider that it is coming in this reverse direction. Okay, in say from end to start, this direction it is coming. So because it is coming in this direction, the next uh, request its service is
37.
good 37.
That's
After
good.
37, it gives service to the
14, 1 4.
14. Yes, and then what it does, look at here carefully. It go to the last, means
Yeah.
the
Maximum. Last.
edge, the last number or the first number, means to the most corner, the last corner of both the ends. It goes. Although there is no request from 14 to 0, between 14 and 0 there is no request,
Mhm.
still it has to go to 0 again, then it starts. This algorithm is also known as elevator algorithm. Why it is known as elevator algorithm? You can anyone tell me how does elevator works? This elevator, suppose if there are 10 floors in a building,
Mhm.
okay, and if it is going up, it will go up, 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 and up. Okay, and when it is going down, it is going down.
Yeah, yeah.
In only one direction it moves, up or down. Suppose there is some person who has to go urgently from third floor to um, first floor, say. Okay, and if the lift is going up and there is only one person, that person has to go up to the floor number 10.
Mhm.
Then what this person has to do from third floor?
He
He
has
has
to
to
wait
wait until that lift drops the person there on the 10th
the
floor
10th floor and comes down.
and comes down.
Mhm.
And then he has to get into the lift to go down. So this is how it works. See, likewise, scan algorithm follow this methodology of elevator, where it goes in one direction until the end, and then it starts from here. And
Reverse.
when it starts here, which is the request that it service next? It is 65 and 67, then 98, then
123, 122.
122,
This
then
one, 124,
124, then
183.
183. Oh, I think you have understood how I am calculating these head moments.
Yes,
So you
yes.
can do for scan as well. So I'm not doing for scan.
Yeah.
The next method is C-scan.
Scan.
C-scan stands for circular scan. In circular scan, what is the problem in this scan algorithm? That already it is coming this way. When it is coming this way, it is giving service here to all the requests, and again it starts serving this way only, right? Suppose here there is one request, and this request has arrived after the head has started moving. Head was here and this request has arrived, so this head travels to the beginning and then again starts serving and then reaches this point. So this one has to wait for so long, and all the requests that are in this area will be serviced very
Yeah.
quickly, and all the requests that are there in this area has to wait for a longer time.
Mhm.
Yes,
Yes, ma'am.
did you understand this point?
Yeah,
Yes.
Here is servicing, again servicing. So what can be done is, in C scan, um, here the head, if it is on this route from end to start giving the service, then from start without servicing any requests, it directly moves to this end. Whenever the head reaches the other end, means from this end it started, right? This is start end, this is end. From start to end, when it has reached this end, it immediately uh, you know returns without any service on its return route. While returning, it will not give any service. Immediately it returns to this point. If start is this, if it is serving like this, then what happens? It, without giving any service, it returns to this end. So it moves to provide a uniform wait time. Otherwise, this side, if you're on this way, this side will be serviced before, then this side, and this side will take more time. And the wait time is not uniform. Okay, in scan, in C scan, the wait time is uniform because it don't give service when uh, it is on its return trip. Okay, did you understand this? So can you do for C scan?
So one-way services will be there, and return there will be no any.
Yes. Q is equals to 98, 183, 37, 122, 14, 124, 65,
67.
67. This is our Q. Head is at 53. Okay. Now look at here how it works.
53.
Here we are here. If we are coming this way, then we will be going this
Yeah.
direction.
Yeah.
Okay. If we are on this way, then we are going like this.
Left side or right side?
Right side. It depends on the direction of the head, right? So I can go this way or I can go this way as well. Now I am considering, I am assuming that it is coming this way. Because it is coming this way, I have to go in
Go
forward
forward.
direction. In forward direction, 65, 67,
67, 98,
98,
122,
122,
124,
124,
183,
183,
14.
and
It
no
will end here.
end.
But it will go to the end. Yeah.
Yeah,
Last.
after end, what it will do?
It will return to other direction.
Other direction without
Without
giving
service.
any
Without,
service.
yeah, without.
Without servicing.
Without servicing. So it has reached now the 0, 1 means the other end. Okay, we are here now. The head is here. And if you observe here, 14 is here, but it
Yeah.
will not give service. Again, it starts.
Yeah.
So we have 14, we have 37,
37.
right? Did you understand?
Yeah, yeah. So wait time is equal.
Yeah, wait time is equal. Otherwise, here we are coming from here, giving service, and then reaching this end, providing service. If you observe here, if there are more requests coming and coming, suppose in the queue they are coming, and when they are entering in the queue, operating system, what it does, it looks into the queue and see, okay, another request is there here, so give service. Another is there, give service. Like that, here request will be starving,
Mm.
waiting for more time. One problem is there in C-scan. C-scan looks perfectly fine, but there is one problem in. What is the problem? Can anyone identify?
Waiting time is more for the minimum seek resource.
How? How waiting time is more?
Because if we take the above queue, that is 14 is the least. Okay. Starting from 53, it has to complete from the complete 53 to that 199, and then it's coming back to 14. So until it's complete the process, 14 has to wait. So it takes 14 for a long time.
No, it is going back, right, without service. So movement will be fast.
Without servicing, already it has serviced them, the queue numbers. So while returning, it is not serving. Already it has serviced. By within this meantime, the 14 has to wait for a long time.
Okay, that is there. What point you are raising is absolutely right in this context. But when we are doing in a actual computer system with lot of requests, and this one, come to some average value which is less than other methods. The problem which is actually present in this is unnecessarily it is going to the last end.
Yeah.
It need not go to the last end. What it can do, it can stop
You
at
can
the
stop
last
at 183 and reverse back.
reverse back. So that one is the last one, last method, which is look. Look is
See, look.
look comes under, it can be scan or
Version
C-scan.
of scan C look.
It has versions of scan and C-scan. Scan means serving um, in both the directions, and C-scan serving only in one direction. So you have look and C look in this. Scan one is look and C-scan one is C look. But what it does is, it does not go to the end of the disk, that is to the last cylinder. All right, did you understand this disk scheduling algorithms?
Can you repeat this one look method?
Okay. Look method.
Yeah.
Here 0, 199. In the queue, you see that from 53 serving 65, 67, 98, 122, we are going to 183.
Hmm.
Okay, from 183 we return and start serving in look. This is look.
Okay.
And then we come here and give service to 37 and 14. This is look. In C look, what happens is, this is C look. In C look, it starts at 53, 65, 67, and then it goes to this 183, and then it does not give any service in the back direction, and then what it does is, it comes to 14 and then gives service to 37. This is C look. It will not, in the back direction, it will not go to the 0. It will come to the point which is the least one, minimum one in that direction.
Okay. So that means from 83 to 99, it will not go. Skip.
Yeah, it will not go because there are no requests, no, in the queue.
Okay.
It's clear, right?
Yeah.
Let us go on to the next topic,
So,
which is
so mostly this C look method is used, no, currently.
right. Yeah, we can use C look because it is most efficient among all,
Yes.
not having any, major disadvantage.
Yes.
Okay. Disk management. Moving ahead, the next topic is the disk management. In this disk management, the operating system has to manage the disk, that hard disk that we saw, the structure of hard disk, whatever we saw in the beginning of the class. This one here, cylinders have to be created. Initially, this is like a blank slate, right? There is nothing on this hard disk. Then what has to be done? This disk has to be divided up into sectors, into tracks, into cylinders, and then size of the sector has to be specified, and a boot block has to be identified, where boot program is stored. All these tasks is done on a blank disk. Initially, when you buy it, it may be a blank disk, having nothing. Then it has to be formatted. when you have to format this, there are two ways to format this. First method of formatting is the physical formatting. In physical formatting, this is also known as low level formatting. Okay, in this low level formatting, which is done at the time of manufacturing. Okay, manufacturing of the hard disk. First one. Second one, operating system. After you install operating system also does formatting. What kind of formatting it does? It creates a partition on the disk, and it creates a logical format, that is the creation of file system. Partition it does and creates file system. Okay, creation of file system is known as logical partitioning, logical formatting. All right, did you understand this?
Yes,
And
ma'am.
then next important point in this is, what is a boot block and what is the job of a boot block? On the disk, when you switch on the computer system, what happens? Can anyone tell me? The operating system is loaded from disk onto the memory. Okay, so there is a program known as boot program, bootstrap program. That is the initial program which initializes CPU registers, device controllers, and then starts the operating system. A boot block is a block of disk that holds or stores the bootstrap program. So this one will store the bootstrap program. What is a bootstrap program? It is a special program that initializes CPU registers, device controllers, and starts the operating system. Boot block is the one which holds the bootstrap program. And then the other one is about bad blocks. What is a bad block? On the disk, there might be few sectors that have been damaged, that are not in a condition to store the data. The operating system need to identify those blocks which are known as bad blocks. All right, these are the defective blocks, and blocks can be identified. These are the defective blocks. These can be identified manually, or this can be identified uh, by storing uh, all the bad sectors in a list, which is known as sector sparing or forwarding. Sector sparing or forwarding. It is a list of bad blocks, and logical file system. When this list is specified to logical file system, it set aside those spare um, sectors and do not use them. Another one is sector slipping. Sector slipping is about moving the contents of a bad sector to the next sector. and that next sector contains to the subsequent sector, and so on. So if in case the sector number 13 has been damaged, then 13 is moved to 14, and 14 moved to 15. Likewise, it is done. So this is about bad blocks. Okay, and then what is the disk attachment, disk management, swap space management, RAID structure, and storage implement. I'll tell you disk attachment as well. Now we'll see what is a swap space management. What is a swap space? Can anyone tell me? Do you remember what is a swap area? We studied.
Swapping.
Yeah, what is swapping?
The pro. Okay, నిమిషం. If I want to swapping with one another, that means changing, exchanging.
Yeah, ma'am. Exchanging of data or the addresses between the sectors or the
In
blocks.
what? Here that is important. Swapping, whatever you are saying, exchanging or moving, that is all right. What is the two components which are being swapped here? Where are they located? That part you tell me.
Boot block, that is bootstrapping.
No. Do you remember memory management? We studied paging, segmentation, virtual memory. In
Yes,
that
ma'am.
we learned that from RAM we swap out a
Yes,
part of the program which is not in use to the swap area. Like
yes.
this type of diagram I drew on the board.
Hmm.
Like this is the swap area. You transfer the some part of the program to the swap area, this which is known as swap out, and then when that is required, that is requested by the user, then you bring that in to the memory, which is known as swap in. Okay, so
Yes,
virtual
ma'am.
memory, actually it comes under virtual memory, in the concept of virtual memory. So virtual memory uses disk space as an extension to main memory. And what is the primary goal of this swap area? It is to have an effective and efficient design and implementation, such that it provides the best throughput for the virtual memory. When we talk about virtual memory, um, this program is taken out of main memory and stored into the swap area. This has to be done efficiently so that we can improve the throughput. All right, so that we are going to study here. So swap area management, how an operating system manages this part, which is nothing but a swap area. This is the swap area or swap space management. This is swap space. Okay, so what are the uses of swap space? It can hold the entire program or the part of the program. Means it's like a not program process, because a program in execution is a process. It can hold the entire process image and the data segment. And this swap space also stores the pages. Pages. What are pages? In paging technique, we studied that the main memory is divided into fixed size blocks known as pages.
Yes, ma'am.
That pages also can be stored in this swap area, and process image and the data associated with that can also be stored.
Okay.
And then apparently operating system has to determine the swap space location, where which part of disk should be uh, made as swap space. It can be in a normal file system. Okay, when you have C drive or D drive, no, this there is a normal file system. In this, you can use any one area, or you can have a separate partition. Say E. This E is mainly for swap space. There are two ways in which it can be determined which location to be used. It can be in a normal file system, or it can be in a separate disk partition. Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
it is about swap space. Then we have I think RAID structure. Let me check.
Data structure for swapping on Linux systems.
Yeah, for Linux systems, Linux uses whenever a process is started, a space is allocated um, to hold that program in the form of text pages and or segments and a data segment. And then or for process swap maps are used in Unix system. They use the swap maps that keeps track of the process that are stored in the swap space. Okay, so it has got text segment and data segment in Unix. Two different segments. Text segment is a fixed size and that holds the instructions. Data segment can grow, and its size is not fixed, and it is like it can hold the parameters or some data elements. Okay. Next is this RAID structure. RAID stands for
Redundant array of inexpensive disks.
redundant array of inexpensive or independent disks. Can anyone tell me the advantage of having uh, multiple disks?
Multiple disk drive provides. Then
When you have multiple disks, you have many disks. Suppose you have 10 disks or 5 disks. How are you going to organize these disks? You are going to use these disks. This is specified by RAID. RAID is nothing but redundant array of inexpensive or independent disks, and this one specifies the organizations for multiple disks, and these have got levels, RAID levels. You have got primarily 7 RAID levels. So RAID levels are numbered from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 0 through 6. Totally 7. There are 7 RAID levels. Okay. Let us see what is the advantage of having RAID. RAID is all about having multiple disks organized in some format based on its level. Okay. And the uses of RAID are two. One is performance improvement. Second one is the reliability. What is performance improvement? This can be done. Performance improvement, let me tell you that suppose if you have to read a file, we know that inherently disks are slow relative to main memory. When you are reading a large file, say 1 GB file, you are reading from one disk, it takes enormous amount of time. Instead of that, if you divide that file, F1 file, into 5 parts, okay, into 5 parts, if you consider 1 GB is equals to 1000 MB. So if you store 200 MB in 5, consider that actually 1 GB is 1024, but assume that it is that. Then this file is split up into 5 parts, and simultaneously you are reading from five different disks. If you require 1 minute to read from one disk, then this can be reduced by 1/5 of the time, right? Because simultaneously you are reading from all the 5. So performance can be improved via parallelism. Okay, performance improvement is achieved through parallelism, and reliability is achieved through what is reliability? Suppose that you have a file stored on disk one, D1, and disk has collapsed. Then what you will do? It becomes so difficult to retrieve it. Sometimes you can't retrieve at all. So if you just maintain another copy in another disk as backup, then what you can do? If this fails, you can retrieve from D2. This is what is this? This is redundancy. All right, this is redundancy. How do you achieve parallelism? This can be achieved using a technique known as stripping. Okay, using a technique known as stripping, and this stripping is done in 2 ways: bit stripping, block stripping, bit stripping, and block stripping. Okay, and redundancy, this one is achieved through mirroring. It is also known as shadowing. All right. Now let us look at the levels. What happens to different levels? RAID level 0. RAID level 0. It is about block stripping without redundancy. Block stripping without redundancy implies that it achieves parallelism. However, it cannot provide redundancy. So how do you do that? Block stripping and bit stripping. What is that? Bit stripping means you divide the block into bits and then you store on multiple disks. If suppose you have 4 bits in each block, then each bit is stored on one disk. This is bit number 1, 2, 3, 4 for block 1. For block 2, again this is 1, 2, 3, 4. This is bit level stripping. Block level stripping is, suppose there are 4 blocks in file 1. So this is block 1, block 2, block 3, block 4. This is block level. This is bit level. This is bit. This is block level. Understand? So we are doing here block level stripping. And there is no redundancy. Essentially, you are not creating backup copy or alternate copy or redundant copy of a file. You have only one version, only one copy. You don't have multiple copies. Next one is disk mirroring. What do you mean by disk mirroring?
Reflects the
In disk mirroring, if suppose there are 4 disks, then you create a mirror of them. Means,
duplicate.
yeah, duplicate. For them, this is one mirror. Okay. For 4 disks, you get 4 more disks.
Duplicates.
That stores a duplicate of this. Then level 2, it is bit stripping with parity bit stripping with 3 parity bits. What do you mean by parity bits? Parity bits are used for error detection and correction. In case that the block or file damages gets detected, through these bits you can recover. 3 bits means now you have 4 bits. Suppose if you have 4 bits, then you get 3 more disks for parity. Okay. Next, level number 3 is bit level stripping with 1 parity bit. Bit stripping with 1 parity bit. In this case, what happens? If suppose you have 4 disks, you will have only 1 disk extra for parity.
Performance.
And then level 4 is block stripping and parity bit on separate disk. This is block stripping and parity bit on separate disk. Parity on separate disk. So suppose if you have 4 disks, then you will have a parity disk. Okay. And then this one, level 5, block stripping and parity is spread across the disk. Means it is distributed. There is no separate disk for parity. Parity bits are stored along with the data. So this is block stripping and parity distributed. What happens here? You have 5 disks and your parity is distributed on all the disks. All right. Then level 6, it is same as level 5. but it stores extra information to guard against multiple disk failure. Same as 5, but stores extra information in the form of codes, which are known as Reed-Solomon codes. Extra information in the form of Reed-Solomon codes are stored on disk. Beside having data and parity, you have some codes. Parity is only calculated using this Reed-Solomon codes. Well, besides these 7 levels, this disk arrangement can be done further in 2 different ways: 0 plus 1 or 1 plus 0. 0 plus 1 means disks are stripped and stripe is mirrored. In this, disks are mirrored means what? First you create a duplicate copies and stripe sorry, it is disks are striped and stripe is mirrored. And stripe is mirrored means first you create
Stripping and later it strips up mirror duplicates.
right. In second version, 1 plus 0, disks are mirrored means first you create a duplicate copy and then those copies are and then mirror the and then do mirroring. Disks are mirrored and mirrored pairs are striped. Mirrored pairs are striped. Okay, did you understand the red?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, any doubts?
No.
Then now what is left? Disk attachment. Disk attachment is about no attaching means computer connecting disks to the computers so that they can be accessed. It can be done in one of the 3 ways. You have host attached storage, host attached, or you have networked attached. Network attached and storage area network. So what is host attached? Host attached means a computer is attached to the
Connected.
yeah, a computer is connected to the disk. Okay, locally. That means this host, it has got a disk inside it. Network attached, this is a system. Over the
Connecting the
network,
computers.
yes, it gets connected to the storage. And storage area network means there is a network of all storage devices. Okay, there is a figure given, storage area network, which has like this all the data servers. These are data servers, consider, and this is connected to servers which are connected to LANs or WAN, and to which multiple clients can be connected. This is SAN, and this one is LAN, WAN. This is this one. Okay. Did you all understand today's class?
Yes, ma'am.
We have done the first part of Unit 4. Tomorrow, not tomorrow, Monday. Monday we have class. Monday we will be discussing the first part of Unit 4 and also some part of Unit 5, and then Tuesday finally in the concluding class we will discuss the other part of the Unit 5. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, then any doubts, anything?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
Okay, then I wish you all a very happy festival time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Bye bye.
Bye, ma'am. Thank you.